Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The hotel lobby was a haven of luxury. White marble columns reflected the light from the immense chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, while the polished parquet floor reflected the gleam of guests' elegant shoes. The subtle scent of fresh flowers mingled with the soft rustle of dresses and the murmur of hushed conversation. Everything exuded order, prestige, and success. She stepped into the lobby, her heels echoing with almost musical precision on the glossy floor. Each step seemed calculated, controlled, exuding a natural authority that drew attention without her having to ask. Her dark eyes swept the room, attentive to every detail, the reception desk, the immaculately uniformed staff, the hurried customers. Her face remained impassive, but in her mind, a storm was brewing. The employee behind the counter, a young man with misplaced arrogance, certain of his power, glared at her with contempt. He thought he recognized in her a simple customer, someone, sloppy, who needed correcting, putting in her place. "Madam, you can't," he began, his voice barely betraying the excitement of being in control of the situation. Before she could reply, he leaned forward, a smirk on his lips, and pushed her back lightly against the door. The customers present only just had time to register the abrupt gesture, the silent humiliation he imposed. She remained calm. Her body wasn't trembling, but her mind was analyzing every detail, every flaw in her opponent's face. She knew exactly what she was going to do. Yet she let a few seconds pass, just to feel the tension rise and observe his arrogance. Then, without warning, he raised his hand and slapped her. The sharp sound echoed through the lobby like a clap of thunder. The customers' murmurs immediately stopped. Surprise, anger, and pain flashed across her face, but she didn't give in. She felt her heart beat faster, not with fear, but with determination. What he didn't know was that this woman wasn't just another customer. She was the owner of the hotel, the one who signed the checks, who decided on promotions, and who could destroy a career with a single word. A cold smile touched her lips. In the silence that followed the slap, she breathed slowly, letting the weight of the situation sink in. Every eye in the lobby turned toward them. The employee, proud of his gesture, thought he had the situation under control. He was sorely mistaken. Behind this apparent calm, a plan was forming in his mind. It wasn't just about clearing his name, but about showing him and everyone present that beneath that facade of an ordinary customer hid absolute power over this place. This was only the beginning. The humiliation he had just inflicted on her would backfire spectacularly, and the hall, once a witness to his arrogance, would become the scene of his downfall. The next morning, the hotel lobby returned to its apparent calm. The marble columns gleamed in the soft light filtering through the large bay windows, and the subtle scent of fresh flowers still hung in the air. But beneath this facade of perfection, an invisible unease hung. The employee, James Carter, stood behind the counter, a satisfied smile on his face. He was convinced that yesterday's incident had been a minor incident. A difficult customer, he told himself, whom I simply reminded of her place. Little did he know that this gesture would set off a chain of events that would change his life. She, for her part, watched from the shadows of the hall, discreet but attentive. Her name was Vanessa Lawson, a woman of imposing elegance and natural authority that many respected without even knowing her. For most, she was considered a demanding customer. Few knew that she was the owner of the hotel, the one who oversaw every department, every employee, every decision. Vanessa moved with calculated precision. Every gesture, every look, every word was carefully crafted to create an invisible tension around James. She wanted to understand the extent of his arrogance before she could retaliate. She began by observing his behavior. James shouted orders at other employees, made minor decisions without consulting anyone, and displayed a self-importance that barely irritated the customers, but which hadn't escaped her notice. Vanessa noted everything in her mind. Every word, every movement would be used later. When a client arrived for an important booking, James rushed to greet him with his usual arrogance. Vanessa then approached quietly and placed her hand on his shoulder. "James," she whispered, her voice calm but firm, we need to talk about how you treat customers." He turned around abruptly, surprised, but saw nothing unusual. Yet Vanessa hadn't raised her voice, hadn't shown any authority. And that was precisely where her power lay. Her calm, her complete mastery of the situation, left James oblivious to the approaching storm. "All right," he said, a little defensively, "who exactly are you to tell me that?" The smile that appeared on Vanessa's face was both sweet and icy. "I'm the one who decides if you keep your job." James's world seemed to reel. He swallowed, unable to immediately grasp the gravity of the situation. The customers and other employees watched, intrigued. To them, Vanessa was just a demanding customer, but to him, she was now the symbol of everything he had taken for granted: his power, his superiority, and his position. Vanessa stepped back slightly, as if to give James time to realize the magnitude of his mistake. Each second of silence weighed heavily, and James felt his arrogance melt away, replaced by a cold fear he didn't want to admit. This was just the beginning. Vanessa knew exactly how to turn this humiliation into a lasting lesson. Her plan would be methodical, relentless, and above all, memorable. The day wore on, but the hotel lobby was no longer quite the same. Every glance seemed weighted, every gesture was observed. James Carter, usually self-assured, felt a growing unease. The murmurs of the employees, the discreet glances of the guests, everything reminded him of his recent humiliation. He had thought no one had noticed his slap and his arrogance, but Vanessa had subtly sown seeds of doubt. Vanessa wandered between the counters and lounges, politely greeting customers, but her attention was entirely focused on James. She knew his habits, his flaws, and the weak points of his behavior. Her goal was not just to confront him, but to transform the lobby into a playground where respect would be restored in a resounding manner. When a prestigious client came in to book a luxury suite, James immediately intervened, trying to regain control. "Madam, let me take care of this reservation," he said in his usual authoritative tone. Vanessa approached slowly, a slight smile on her lips. "James, I think I can handle this situation," she said calmly. James's condescending smile faltered. "And you are?" he asked, still unaware of the truth. "I'm Vanessa Lawson, the owner of this hotel," she replied, each word like a knife. An icy silence fell over the lobby. Customers and staff froze in shock at this revelation. James felt his heart race. His hands trembled slightly, and he stammered. The owner? But I. Vanessa raised a finger to cut off his protest. "James, we're going to discuss your behavior yesterday," she said, seemingly gently, but the coldness in her eyes suggested that no mercy was to be expected. She invited him to her office, located on the upper floor. Every step he took seemed heavy, every movement under Vanessa's calm but piercing gaze became a silent lesson. The elevator rose silently, and James felt for the first time that he was no longer in control of the situation. In the office, Vanessa sat behind her huge mahogany desk, not showing any anger. She wanted the lesson to be clear: power lies not in sudden gestures or strong words, but in calm and relentless control. "Yesterday, James," she began, "you thought you could impose your authority through force and humiliation. You slapped a woman, thinking she couldn't do anything. But you were wrong. Here, respect isn't earned through fear." James tried to protest, but Vanessa cut him off, her gentle tone contrasting with the severity of her words. "Your job is on the line, James. Every move, every word you make will be watched. You must show that you can respect your colleagues and your customers. Otherwise, well, you know what you'll get." He understood then that yesterday's humiliation was only the beginning. Vanessa was not only seeking to restore her dignity, but to educate the arrogance and impudence of an employee who believed he possessed power. At that precise moment, James realized that the real strength came not from violence or fear, but from the absolute control Vanessa exerted over the entire situation, and he would soon feel this control, in every gesture, every decision, every interaction. The next morning, the hotel lobby seemed to breathe differently. Frequent guests noticed a more tense, almost electric atmosphere, as if something major was about to happen. The employees murmured among themselves, casting anxious glances toward the counter where James Carter stood, still shaken by yesterday's confrontation. Vanessa, dressed in an impeccable navy suit, entered with a natural elegance that immediately captivated everyone's attention. Every step was measured, precise, every movement reflecting a quiet but undeniable authority. She said nothing at first, simply observing the hall and James, who, despite his usual arrogance, instantly froze under her gaze. "Hello everyone," she finally announced, her soft but firm voice carrying throughout the hall. "I'd like to speak to my team for a few minutes." All the employees gathered around her, intrigued. James tried to resume his usual supervisory role, but Vanessa wouldn't let him. "James, you will come with me," she said simply. James's cheeks flushed. He'd thought he had the situation under control yesterday, but now he was under the impassive gaze of the woman he'd humiliated. Vanessa stepped onto the makeshift platform in the lobby, each step measured, like a queen entering her throne room. She raised her hand to command everyone's attention, and the lobby fell silent. "Yesterday, a regrettable incident occurred," she began calmly, but every word carried weight. "A member of our staff believed he could assert his authority through humiliation and violence." All eyes turned to James, who felt his face fall. Vanessa continued, without raising her voice. "Here in this hotel, we do not tolerate arrogance or contempt. Respect is the most important value, and each of us must uphold it." She paused, letting silence fall. The murmurs of the employees betrayed their surprise and curiosity. Vanessa moved slightly towards James. "James Carter, you are a talented member of our team. But yesterday, you failed to show that respect. Today, you will have the opportunity to redeem yourself, or leave." She then handed James a file detailing his mistakes, his failings, and the testimonies of customers present at the time of the incident. The employees watched, fascinated. For the first time, James understood that his apparent power had crumbled, and that the real authority lay in Vanessa's quiet mastery and intelligence. The customers in the lobby, who had witnessed the scene, began to whisper among themselves, impressed by Vanessa's calm and firm demeanor. Some realized that this woman was not just a landlady, but a force to be reckoned with. James felt the humiliation rising, but he didn't dare say anything. Vanessa knew exactly how to keep the pressure on. She didn't shout, didn't gesticulate, and yet every word and every look weighed like a hammer. "Let me be clear to everyone," she concluded, "every gesture, every word, every action counts. Respect is earned through behavior, not fear." The hall fell into a respectful silence, as James stood motionless, unable to reply. From that moment on, he knew that his world had just turned upside down, and that Vanessa now controlled every aspect of his career, and perhaps his life. The next morning, the hotel lobby seemed different. Even the most indifferent regulars felt a subtle shift in the air, an almost electric tension. Vanessa Lawson, always impeccable in her navy suit, wandered among the staff, mentally noting every gesture, every attitude. She summoned James into her office. Her tone remained calm, but each word carried weight. "James, today you will be responsible for overseeing customer service during lunch. Every customer must leave satisfied, and your interactions will be closely observed." James, still shaken by the public humiliation of the day before, tried to protest. "But I already have." "There's nothing to discuss," Vanessa said, a slight smile playing on her lips. "Think of this as an opportunity to show that you can respect others." The instructions seemed simple, but Vanessa had thought it all out. She knew James had always believed that charm and arrogance were enough to handle difficult customers. Today, he would learn that true respect required patience, listening, and self-control. As the guests arrived, Vanessa watched discreetly from a corner of the lobby. A demanding couple entered, requesting a garden view suite, personalized meals, and immediate service. A nervous James began by imposing his own rules, seeking to prove his authority. But Vanessa intervened subtly. She stepped forward, gave the couple a polite smile, and guided them toward a perfect solution, while leaving some of the details to James. Vanessa's every move contrasted with James's agitation. He was beginning to feel the weight of his own arrogance. He had to learn to obey as much as to lead. Throughout the day, Vanessa placed James in several delicate situations. A disgruntled customer criticizing the decor of his room. A reservation that was incorrectly recorded and that he had to correct. Under pressure. Employees reluctant to carry out his orders. Each time, Vanessa remained silently present, a simple glance or gesture reminding him that control was not in his hands. Every mistake, every hesitation on James's part, reinforced the lesson. Towards the end of the day, James stood in the hall, exhausted, and finally realized, respect is earned through humility, hard work, and self-control, not through arrogance or violence. Vanessa then approached, gently placing a hand on his shoulder. You see, James, she concluded calmly, leading doesn't mean dominating. It means understanding, anticipating, and respecting those you serve. James, ashamed but awakened to this truth, nodded. It was a silent but profound lesson, and he knew it was only the beginning of his learning. Vanessa, meanwhile, watched, satisfied. The reconstruction of order and respect in his hotel had begun, and James was now under his benevolent but relentless tutelage. The hotel lobby was bustling that morning. High-profile clients were expected for a special event, a private reception for international investors. Every detail had to be perfect, and Vanessa knew this was the perfect opportunity to put James to the test. James, she said as she entered the lobby, today you will be responsible for overseeing the entire reception department. Every interaction, every gesture, every word will be observed. James felt a knot of anxiety in his stomach. After the lessons of the previous days, he knew this mission wouldn't be easy. Yet, he had no choice, succeed or completely lose Vanessa's respect and, potentially, his job. As soon as the guests arrived, an incident occurred. A well-known investor, known for his high standards and impatience, noticed that the welcome table was not prepared to his standards. He lost his temper, raising his voice in front of all the employees and customers present. James immediately felt panic rise in him, but this time he remembered Vanessa's silent advice: keep calm, listen carefully, find an effective solution without arrogance or anger. Sir, he began cautiously, I completely understand your frustration. Allow me to rectify this immediately and ensure that everything is perfect according to your expectations. The customer eyed James skeptically, but instead of getting further upset, he noticed the respectful tone and determination in his eyes. James continued. I will personally oversee the installation and ensure your complete satisfaction. Meanwhile, Vanessa stood aside, silently observing. She saw James's every move, every interaction with staff and customers. And for the first time since the slapping incident, she felt a quiet pride. James was finally applying his lessons, transforming his fear and shame into efficiency and respect. The incident ended successfully, the table was rearranged in record time, the customer was satisfied, and the reception continued without further incident. James, breathless but relieved, felt a new respect grow around him. His colleagues and customers had noticed his calm and ability to manage the situation, and he knew it was all due to Vanessa's silent but relentless guidance. At the end of the day, Vanessa approached him again. You see, James, she said softly, leading under pressure is different from leading with peace of mind. That's where true respect is earned. And I'm glad to see you've begun to understand that. James nodded, grateful and aware that his apprenticeship was only just beginning. He had tasted humiliation, then the silent lesson, and now responsibility under pressure. He understood that Vanessa was not just a landlady, but a ruthless guide for those who were to learn the true meaning of respect and power. The morning sun streamed through the lobby's large bay windows, illuminating the polished marble and majestic columns. Vanessa Lawson stood there, watching the comings and goings of guests and staff with impassive calm. Every detail of the hotel belonged to her, but today she had one specific goal: to test James once and for all. She called James to his office. Today, James, she said calmly, we're going to simulate a critical situation. You'll be in charge of the entire hall during the management's temporary absence. Every decision you make will be monitored, and every mistake will have immediate consequences. James felt a mixture of fear and determination. After the previous lessons, he knew this was the ultimate test to prove he had changed. Shortly after, Vanessa quietly left the office, leaving James alone to face the situation. Almost immediately, she had organized a scene. An extremely demanding client, playing the role of a VIP, burst into the lobby, criticizing everything from cleanliness to the arrangement of furniture. A booking problem was intentionally created, leaving James to find a quick and effective solution. Employees, Vanessa's accomplices, pretended to hesitate to follow his instructions, testing his ability to lead with patience and authority without imposing fear. James took a deep breath. This time, he didn't panic. He listened carefully to the customer, understood their needs, and calmly coordinated the staff. He quickly corrected the reservation, rearranged the spaces, and ensured the customer left satisfied. Outside the office, Vanessa watched every move through the security camera she'd installed in the lobby. She smiled to herself. James was finally putting into practice everything she'd taught him. He no longer needed humiliation or direct threats to understand respect and responsibility. At the end of the simulation, Vanessa entered the hall, attracting all eyes. "James," she said to the staff and customers present, "you have shown patience, respect, and composure under pressure today. What you have just shown exceeds what I expected." James, relieved but still slightly nervous, felt a deep respect for Vanessa. He understood that her lessons were not just a punishment for his past mistakes, but a true lesson in transforming his way of leading and receiving respect. "You see, James," Vanessa concluded gently but firmly, "power isn't given, it's earned. And today, you've begun to understand that." The staff, witnessing the scene, murmured their admiration. James felt that the humiliation had been replaced by silent respect, and that he had just reached an important milestone in his learning. Vanessa, for her part, knew that this wasn't the end yet. James's path to complete mastery of his role had just begun, but she was now certain that the most important lesson had been learned: true power lies in self-control and respect for others. A few days later, the hotel hosted a prestigious gala designed to attract international investors and influential figures from the business world. The lobby, decorated with exotic flowers and sparkling chandeliers, resembled a palace. Every detail had been orchestrated by Vanessa herself, not only to impress the guests, but also to create the perfect setting for James's final test. Vanessa called James into her office. "Today," she said calmly, "you will be responsible for the complete coordination of the event. Every interaction, every gesture will be observed, and every problem must be resolved immediately and tactfully." James felt the tension rising, but unlike the previous days, he no longer felt that paralyzing fear. He had learned to channel his stress and focus on his responsibilities. As soon as the guests arrived, several incidents were orchestrated. A famous customer openly criticized the menu and the arrangement of tables in front of all other guests. A double booking was discovered, threatening to create a conflict between two influential families. Employees, Vanessa's accomplices, feigned mistakes to test his patience and ability to lead under pressure. Any situation could have turned the gala into a disaster, but this time James remained calm. He listened attentively to the disgruntled customer, offered an immediate solution, and remained polite, controlling his voice and gestures. Regarding the double booking, he skillfully negotiated with the parties involved and found a solution that satisfied everyone. He guided his employees patiently, giving clear instructions without raising his voice. Vanessa, watching the scene from a balcony, smiled slightly. She saw James applying everything she had taught him: respect, calm, control, and efficiency under pressure. As the gala drew to a close, Vanessa came down to the lobby and addressed him in front of all the guests and staff. "James," she said in a measured but powerful tone, "today you have demonstrated that respect and competence do not depend on fear or arrogance, but on patience, listening, and self-control." The staff applauded quietly, and some influential customers exchanged impressed glances. James, still in shock, felt a surge of pride within him. He had begun his journey in humiliation, but now, before the world's gaze, he had proven his transformation. Vanessa placed a hand on his shoulder, a slight smile on her lips. "You've proven yourself, James. But remember, the real test never ends." Every day is an opportunity to demonstrate your respect and competence. Today, you've taken a major step forward. James nodded, aware that the woman he had once humiliated was now his guide and reference. He finally understood that true power came not from imposed authority, but from the ability to lead with respect and integrity, a lesson he would never forget. The next morning, the hotel lobby was bustling as usual, but a sense of anticipation hung in the air. Vanessa sat in her office, carefully observing every move through the security cameras. She knew James had made good progress, but to confirm his transformation, he needed to face a situation unexpected and critical. Shortly after 10 a.m., an emergency arose. A VIP client, who had arrived for an exclusive reservation, discovered that his suite had been accidentally assigned to another guest. Anger quickly rose. The client was known to be demanding, ruthless, and capable of causing a scandal if the situation was not handled properly. Vanessa immediately called James. "James, this is your problem to solve. I'll stay back and watch your reaction." James took a deep breath. His heart was beating faster, but he felt a newfound confidence. He knew this test wasn't just a test of skill, but a test of emotional control. The customer burst out. "How is this possible? My suite has been booked for months. I can't accept this." James leaned forward slightly, his gaze calm. "Sir, I fully understand your frustration and apologize for this error. Please allow me to immediately find a solution that meets your expectations." He contacted the reservations department, offered an even more prestigious suite, provided personalized service, and took personal responsibility for handling the client. Throughout the confrontation, James remained calm, polite, and respectful, demonstrating complete control of his emotions and the situation. Vanessa, hidden in the shadows of the hall, watched every move with satisfaction. What he was accomplishing went far beyond a simple test. James had learned to transform pressure and tension into strength, without arrogance or panic. When the customer left, satisfied and impressed by James's professionalism, Vanessa approached him. "You have demonstrated composure and competence, James," she said softly but firmly. "Today, you have shown that you can handle the unexpected, protect the hotel and its guests, and act with integrity even under extreme pressure." James, still slightly out of breath but proud, felt a surge of gratitude and respect toward Vanessa. He understood that his past mistakes were no longer a burden, but the foundation of his transformation. "Thank you," he murmured, knowing that without her guidance he would never have been able to achieve this level of mastery. Vanessa gave a slight smile. "This isn't just a test, James. This is the beginning of your true role here. You are now ready to act independently, while respecting the hotel's values." James felt his relationship with Vanessa change. He was no longer just a polished employee, he had become a respectful professional, capable of handling crises and maintaining dignity and order in the hotel. And for the first time, he fully understood that strength does not lie in arrogance, but in self-control and respect for others. A few weeks later, Vanessa summoned James to her office. The hotel lobby was bustling, but today there was a special atmosphere in the air. Vanessa knew James had made good progress, but it was time to put him in a position of real responsibility, to test whether he could manage on his own, with authority and discernment. "James," she said calmly, "today you will be responsible for overseeing the entire hotel during the absence of management. Every department, every employee, and every interaction with prestigious guests will report to you." James felt a mixture of pride and apprehension. He immediately understood that this role symbolized Vanessa's complete confidence in his abilities. Just a few hours later, a major event occurred. A group of international investors, who had come to inspect the hotel for a major partnership, burst into the lobby. Their demands were numerous and stringent, and their expectations extremely high. James took a deep breath. For the first time, he felt completely in control of the situation. Every move, every decision was calculated. He greeted investors with politeness and professionalism, allocated tasks to employees clearly and efficiently, and anticipated every request before it was even made. Meanwhile, Vanessa, discreet but attentive, watched from the shadows. She saw James act with calm and confidence, each interaction reflecting the transformation he had undergone. patience, listening, respect, and self-control. At a critical moment, a last-minute problem arose. A cocktail party planned for investors was accidentally spilled. James responded immediately, coordinating staff to clean up and replace drinks, while reassuring customers and maintaining a positive atmosphere. The investors were impressed by his composure and ability to resolve the issue without chaos or panic. At the end of the event, Vanessa approached him, a measured smile on her face. "James, today you have proven that you are capable of running the hotel with autonomy, competence, and respect. You have overcome every challenge, and every decision you have made has reinforced the trust one have in you." James, proud but humble, felt Vanessa's recognition and trust as a precious weight and an honor. He realized that his transformation was complete. He was no longer just an employee who had been humiliated, but a professional capable of handling critical and prestigious situations with intelligence and respect. "Thank you," he murmured, knowing that his days of arrogance and panic were now a thing of the past. Vanessa placed a hand on his shoulder, silently asserting her authority and pride. "You understand, James, that true power is never imposed by force or fear. It is earned through respect, self-control, and integrity. And today, you are living proof of that." The staff, witnessing the scene, murmured their admiration. James felt that the hotel was no longer just a workplace, it was a place where respect and excellence reigned, and he finally had his place at the top of this new order. Evening was falling on the hotel, and the lobby shone under the golden light of the chandeliers. The last guests had left, the staff were finishing their shifts, and an atmosphere of calm reigned. Vanessa Lawson stood in her office, watching James with a mixture of pride and satisfaction. "James," she said, her voice soft but firm, "you have been through a journey few would have survived. You have gone from arrogance to humility, from panic to mastery, and from ignorance to true respect." James looked down, grateful but moved. Every lesson, every humiliation, every challenge had shaped him. Today, he knew he had earned something more precious than any title: trust, competence, and respect. Vanessa then took out a file and handed it to James. "Starting tomorrow, you will have an official role as assistant hotel manager, with full responsibility for the team and operations. This is your reward for learning to lead with integrity and respect." James felt a surge of emotion wash over him. He never imagined that one day the woman he had humiliated and underestimated would become not only his guide, but also the one who recognized his worth and transformation. "Thank you," he whispered sincerely. "I will never disappoint you." Vanessa gave a subtle smile. "I have no doubt about that, James. But remember, true respect is maintained every day. It is never a given. You have earned your place, but now it is up to you to keep it through your actions." In the lobby, employees watched from a distance. Many had followed James and Vanessa's entire journey, from initial humiliation to complete transformation. The silence turned to murmurs of admiration. Some smiled, others nodded respectfully. All understood a crucial lesson: true power is not in arrogance or strength, but in mastery, respect, and integrity. Vanessa placed a hand on James's shoulder, a discreet but meaningful gesture. "Welcome, James," she said gently. "Today, you are an example to everyone who works here. May every decision, every action, and every word reflect what you have learned." James nodded, determined to honor this trust. For the first time, he felt fully in control of himself, able to lead with calm, respect, and dignity. The hotel, under the light of the chandeliers and the respectful silence of its employees, seemed to breathe a new balance. And in this place where arrogance had been confronted with wisdom, true power and respect had triumphed. Vanessa, watching her transformed protégé, knew her mission was accomplished. James was no longer just an employee, he had become a leader, shaped by the discipline, lessons, and guidance of a woman who knew how to wield strength and subtlety with formidable precision.